Hey everyone, it's time to Nefis and chill. In this video, and probably the only video guide for DPSing for the High Isle patch, otherwise known as Update 34, I'll be showing you guys how to do a dot Necromancer rotation in both dummy parse and also actual raid content. And this is only possible with the help of Madara from PC Europe, who was kind enough to share all of this with me, and by extension, with you guys. What I will go over in this video is going to be the primary setups, information for alternative setups like Trash, Mouse Marina setup, Battleshred Hollow setup, and Oaken Soul Ring setup, and other setups will be on the written guide, which will be linked in the video description below if you're curious about all of that. Otherwise, there will be, as always, great emphasis on the rotations themselves and why we're doing what we're doing on both the dummy and the raid content. Due to the nature of Update 35 and the possibility of a lot of things changing next patch with the Lost Steps DLC, this will be the only DPS guide for this patch. If you have any questions about this DPS rotation or whatever you see in the video or what you see on the written guide, definitely let me know down in the comments below, or feel free to join the ESO University Discord, where you can also ask questions to not just me but also other endgame players / professors in ESOU. So let's get right to it. First off, in terms of attribute allocations, you want 64 points into stamina. The Munda Stone will be the Thief. Your race can be either Dunmer or Altmer, but for the safety's sake in regards to maybe patch changes and stuff like that, and also for specifically some of the specs we're doing, you can go with Dark Elf or Dunmer. You can typically go with either the Essence of Weapon Power or Essence of Spell Power, or depending on the group composition for raids or group content, in general you can go with Heroes and Potions. Your food will be hearty garlic chowder. For the most part, it's just a green food, very cheap, very accessible. It just increases your max stamina by 6,048, and this is made possible by the sustain of the Necromancer class and other factors. In terms of the setup, we do have the typical parse setup. We do have 1 Slime Craw in light. We do have 5 Kinraz on the front bar and 5 Coral Riptide with Harpooners on the body. On the back bar, we do have the VMA 2-hander, which will, at the current PTS cycle, probably not be that great next patch, just a heads up. High Isle's combat update swung the pendulum of power from Magicka Hybrid to Stamina Hybrid specs in terms of the attribute allocations. If you watch the last Necromancer DPS guide we did, it was 64 Magicka, but now it's 64 Stamina. And in terms of itemization, both sets, as you can see, are medium armor based. Coral Riptide is a very strong contender against Reliquant, a set which relies on consistent eye attacks to maintain its proc stacks on the single target. In many scenarios where you may need to change up focus, and in some instances a single target even more than Reliquant, depending on the context of the fight. With raid compositions focusing on penetration from sets such as Alkosh, it lets us use mostly medium armor in raids and on dummy parses. Also heads up, dummies will be updated for Update 35, where they'll get 6,000 penetration from Alkosh and some other debuffs such as Major Slayer. All offensive stats now still scale off of your highest stats as of Update 33 and into Update 34. One thing to note for jewelry enchantments, as you'll see from both the written guide and in the video, is that it could be either spell or weapon damage depending on the raid compositions in trials. If you have a Templar offering minor sorcery that boosts spell damage, then you'll go with spell damage. If you don't, and naturally have minor brutality from Dragon Knight that boosts weapon damage, you'll go with weapon damage glyphs. In terms of skills for the primary setup, you'll have Deadly Cloak, Detonating Siphon, Stalking Blastbones, Barb Trap, Avid Boneyard, and Flawless Dawnbreaker on the front bar. On the back bar, you'll have Mystic Orb, Stampede, Carve, Anti-Cavalry Caltrops, and Skeletal Archer, along with the ultimate, Shooting Star. In terms of champion points, nothing really has changed in terms of the Warfare slottables. You'll still have Biting Aura, Backstabber, Master at Arms, and Thaumaturge for most single target cases. Obviously, the slottables will depend on the context of the scenario. For example, for the Trash setup, we'll have Backstabber, Master at Arms, Exploiter, which was reintroduced with Update 34, and Biting Aura instead of the single target setup. Again, for more information, refer to the written guide. Now, let's go over the rotation. Before you start your parse, whether it's on a raid dummy or even a boss, reduce your stamina resource pool to about 45 to 50%. Then, use channeled acceleration. If you're on PC, you can use an add-on such as Dressing Room, Alpha Gear, or Wizard's Wardrobe to swap out your bar setup quickly. Next, position yourself away from the target at approximately 18 meters in game as shown in the video. After that, begin your opening rotation. Use your potion, and cast the following skills in order: Skeletal Archer, Mystic Orb, Deadly Cloak, then cast Blast Bones on the target, and then cast Shooting Star. Immediately after this, your active rotation starts. While the skills from your opening rotation are flying out, cast the following in exact order: Stampede, Carve, Blast Bones, Barb Trap, Avid Boneyard, Blast Bones, Detonating Siphon, Mystic Orb, Blast Bones, Deadly Cloak, Anti-Cavalry Caltrops, Blast Bones, Carve, and Skeletal Archer. If this rotation looks a bit complicated or overwhelming for you, I understand. It's a lot. However, keep in mind that the staple of your rotation revolves around your Blast Bones cast, meaning for each Blast Bones you can do 2 skills. So as you can see, we did Stampede, Carve, then Blast Bones, and then 2 skills after that we did another Blast Bones. As long as you keep that in mind, you're pretty much good to go. After that initial active rotation, all you have to do is try to refresh your damage over time effects as best as possible, as this is mostly a dot rotation. If you see that your skills have not finished their durations, start spamming Detonating Siphon and Carve. It's really important to not lose Carve stacks for better dot uptimes, and of course for your sustain. For your execute rotation, when the target's health is at 5 to 6%, stop casting Barb Trap and continue your rotation. Here, Madara is going to show us another dummy rotation. It's 124k DPS. And this is without Coral Riptide. So for those of you who have not been able to get the Coral Riptide set, for whatever reason, from normal or veteran Redtail Reef, you can still go with Reliquin. Reliquin is our primary set here in addition to Kinraz's Wrath. You notice that perhaps on this parse, he doesn't do as much prep work, because Coral Riptide does depend on you taking your stamina pool down to a certain percentage, which is about 33% for the most maximum damage output. While Reliquin, you don't really need to do that. All you have to do on Reliquin is the same thing you do for Kinraz's Wrath. You just need to maintain your light attack stacks of either item set procs, and that's pretty much it. As you can see here as well, he's a lot more carefree about taking the synergy, because sustain, or what level of sustain your resource pool is at, does not matter because he doesn't have Coral Riptide. Other than that, the pre-buff in opening rotation, in addition to the current active rotation keeping up your damage over time effects, while doing a blast bone every 2 GCDs or global cooldowns is the exact same thing. That's pretty much it.
Давай, прибав. 3, 2, раз.
Next, we're going to be looking at a actual raid parse, and Yandir the Butcher is not exactly one of the toughest raid bosses, at least for a damage dealer. It's kind of like a stand there and parse boss, like pretty much a lot of other bosses in Trials. And I'm going to pretty much explain what's going on here, because as you've noticed, kind of like the dummy, Madara started at a distance with its rotation. And what just happened here was that they just simply roll dodge the Charis totem that pops up and applies poison AoEs to anyone who doesn't roll dodge the effect. This group is a very, very well organized group. So obviously in terms of buffs and debuff uptimes, you will not probably see the same kind of things going on with your own raid teams. But the principles of doing a DPS rotation with or without those buffs and debuffs still apply here. Even if your healer has a 10% warning opportunist uptime, or if your tank has a really low uptime on Alkosh or whatever set you put the tank in, it doesn't matter because you still need to do your same exact rotation. As you can see here, Madara is still doing a blast bone every 2 global cooldowns. When the dot is out, he is prioritizing that dot, and when the dot is not up yet, he is doing a detonating siphon light attack weave into a carve. And every time his ultimate comes up on his back bar, he will prioritize doing that when possible. You'll notice that, mistakes happen, because he just let carve down. But with such a fast fight like this, it may not matter and he still comes out on top. It's really important to kind of coordinate with your group, obviously as a DPS, but still important to try to carry out your rotation as best as possible, even in fights where you may need to roll dodge or block. Next up is Vrol. Pretty much a similar DPS kind of scenario with Yandir in terms of his stack and DPS. Except this time you'll probably have to block a bit more, especially when you get towards execute. Unlike Yandir, which you may skip a few more meteors than Captain Vrol. Here, we immediately see the group assume their positions. Madara has already started keeping up his dots. He still prioritizes the Blast Bone's cast over recasting another dot. And as you can see, he's just trying his absolute best to keep up dots whenever possible. And still centering it around a Blast Bones every 2 GCDs. Since he's so close to this boss, just like he was to Yandir, it is 2 GCDs. If you are at a distance with a range build, it might be 3 or more GCDs until you have to cast. Optimally, you want 2 GCDs every Blast Bones. As you can see, just like this same exact rotation on the dummy, Madara is doing the same thing over and over. Now the group here called for some focus on the conduit, and Madara turned around like a very good damage dealer and put some focus on the conduit. But that still doesn't really stop him from continuing his rotation from where he left off, if you've noticed the durations on his skill bar.
Yeah, play boss, slow down.
In addition, you can see that he blocked while casting a skill, really important. But still, you need to keep up your rotation. The boss moved slightly a little bit there, and that's okay, because most of your dots are already in the general vicinity. Somebody died, but that's okay too, as long as you keep going with the flow of the fight.
Nie, prosto mnie tak.
And that's it. Well, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video to look at actual content parses and also actual rotation explanations. But yeah, that'll be it for this patch in regards to a DPS guide. If you guys want to see more guides in the future like this, definitely like, subscribe. It helps us a lot. Helps us push out the content more frequently. And yeah, that's it. If you want to check out more information, go to the ESO University website or the ESO University Discord. And I'll see you guys next time.